Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. We're right off the bat on the old show today. Many of you may have seen some of the ads with the Ron Burgundy character from the Anchorman franchise talking about the new Dodge Durango. In fact, I put a couple of them up on the Facebook page when the ads first came out. Well, this particular actor, which is Will Ferrell, who actually brought to life the Anchorman franchise head honcho, which is Ron Burgundy. These particular ads were first initially thought that this would be much better for the movie than it ever would be for the automobile that he was talking about. Apparently that wasn't the case, as year over year the Dodge Durango is up sales up over 50% year over year, which is a pretty impressive little deal. Well, in the past week or so, Mr. Burgundy, or aka Will Ferrell, was actually on the Conan show. Conan O'Brien was actually interviewing when Mr. Burgundy let out that he thought that the car was a complete piece of junk and that he had driven it 100 feet and it broke completely in half. Which I thought, holy mercy. I actually saw that particular clip actually in its first running live. It wasn't taped live, it was tape delayed, but I mean still, I saw it in its first running and thought, sweet mercy. He'll never do Dodge ads ever again. Now, the folks over at Autoline.tv and host John McElroy brought this up and said, you know what? They bet that Dodge is fine with it, knowing that this is a comedic actor and he was making fun of the product. But anytime that you're in the news, and all this free press that came from this could be do nothing but good. And I think those folks are now dead on right, because in the past couple of days, Ron Burgundy is doing ads for the entire Chrysler Corporation, so definitely the Dodge Group itself. So, interesting situation. We'll keep you in tune what comes this in the future. Next up on the list, some fantastic news. The German auto manufacturer Wiesmann, who we talked about, was going into bankruptcy. Fantastic news. They have just filed for a cancellation of the bankruptcy. Apparently a little influx of money or something has taken place. These folks are out from bankruptcy, or at least they filed for it. Hopefully they'll be well back on building automobiles very, very soon. Next up on the list, this is Ralph Gilles, many-time car guy. Big car guy, and we're big fans of Mr. Gilles here at Motor Cars Enthusiasts. He is the head of the SRT group for Chrysler, building all the hot rod versions for the Chrysler Corporation. And he's coming to bat in defense over the whole situation that the Viper program has been kind of a failure and that they're actually killing off production. We talked about it on this show several weeks ago, especially going up against its brethren being the Chevrolet C7 Corvette, which they can't build enough of them. Sadly, the organization has sold just a touch under 1,000 units, as we talked about it in the last programs. But Mr. Gilles coming to bat, saying the actual fault for the brand new SRT Viper not selling well, sadly, well, they put somebody under the bus, which is the dealer network. They're claiming the dealer network doesn't know how to sell the automobile, especially because most Viper owners want to spec it out the way they want to spec it out, and the dealer network doesn't know how to do this, which I found to be very, very strange even to say. I think it's probably more a little on the lines of the Viper price tag has gone up way, a whole bunch, probably almost close to 20 to 30 grand more for a brand new Viper than it used to be, so I think that probably got a little bit to do with it. Now, there's going to be a brand new deal that's going to come out later this next several weeks. It's going to retrain the dealer network into how to sell these automobiles. And they're claiming that this will bring a big upturn in the SRT Viper sales. He also brought up that two things that are definitely true. The new Time Attack automobile that they showed off at the Detroit Motor Show earlier this year is completely sold out. Not to mention that brand new anodized carbon edition that they showed off at the LA Motor Show sold out all 50 units in 3 days. So maybe he's got a little bit of a point here. Maybe the Viper is selling way better than everybody's been talking about. We'll wait and see what comes of this in the future. Next up on the list, remember when we showed off this picture of the Mazda Furai concept that was actually, well, apparently burnt to the ground in the hands of the Top Gear group, Top Gear magazine, when they had hold of the automobile way back in 2008. Well, they finally released what exactly took place. They had this fantastically gorgeous automobile that was built on an LMP2 race car platform, the big, normally aspirated V8 in the back of it. They were taking some photos of the vehicle, actually had the Stig on hand and everything like this. They noticed that the vehicle was actually spitting out blue flames out of the exhaust. Wanted to get some panning shots of this particular situation. So they actually got in an automobile and were actually chasing the car, taking some pictures of it going up and down through the gears and the big blue flame. When the vehicle made a big noise, and they noticed that the car was actually catching fire. They alerted the driver. The driver got the vehicle shut down, but sadly, they were on the other side of the airfield that they were actually filming this. The airfield has somewhat of a little bit of a rise, and the fire brigade that was on the other side of the airfield, on the other end of it, couldn't see that the fire was actually taking place. So after they tried to put the fire out of no avail, they rushed back in the camera car trying to get to the fire brigade, flashing the lights, honking the horn. They finally got a hold of them, brought them back, but sadly by then the car had burnt to the ground. The vehicle was actually carted up by Mazda, and they told the Top Gear group not to speak of what took place that fateful day back in '08. The vehicle was then shipped back to California, where nobody seems to know what exactly is its whereabouts as of this day. The vehicle was actually designed in California in a design group with Mazda, so hopefully we may find out a little bit more about if this car still lives or if there's nothing left of it now. Next up on the list, some very, very sad news. Within the past 24 hours, these two fellows, one being Roger Rodas and film actor Paul Walker, they were both at Roger Rodas's facility, which is called Always Evolving Performance Motors. Mr. Rodas is actually a Pirelli World Challenge Series driver, which he actually did with his friend and actor Paul Walker. The two of them were at the facility having a car show, actually bringing up funds and doing a small toy drive for the organization that Mr. Walker does, which is Reach Out Worldwide. This is an organization that goes in and they're first responders after natural disasters. They were raising funds, collecting toys for the tornadoes that ripped through Illinois and Indiana over the past several days, not to mention the typhoon that actually hit the Philippines over the past several weeks. They were raising up funds with this when Mr. Walker asked if Mr. Rodas would take him for a ride in his red Porsche Carrera GT. And that's sadly where the story pretty much ends. Somehow, some way, Mr. Rodas actually lost control of the vehicle, crashing it into a street sign and into a tree. The vehicle erupted into flames, and it took the lives of both of these fellows. Mr. Rodas was actually 38. He left behind 2 children. Mr. Walker was actually 40, and he left behind a teenage daughter. Very, very sad situation. Not to mention Mr. Walker was well in the production phase of actually working on the Fast and Furious 7, which was actually what his little claim to fame was in the film world, as he's been in all but one of the Fast and Furious franchises. In fact, probably one of the most film franchises in cinema history. Definitely the most famous automobile and the largest automobile franchise in cinema history. Not for 100% sure if his work was done in the Fast and Furious 7 and whether that film may never see the light of day, sadly. Mr. Walker was a heck of a car guy. Big car fan, had a nice car collection, tons of automobiles, very eclectic guy who loved all sorts of automobilia and racing in general. Big fan of Nissan. Nissan actually flew him out to Japan to drive the new R35 GTR before it ever made its debut in the United States. Very, very sad situation for these two fellows. I think Mr. Walker said it best. He said this several years ago. He was heard saying, "If one day speed kills me, do not cry, because I was smiling." And I think all of us here at Motor Cars Enthusiasts send our prayers and thoughts out to Roger Rodas's and Mr. Paul Walker's families. I also pray that both of them were in the arms of the Lord in the blink of an eye. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this week's Motor Cars Enthusiasts. If you want to jump on over to the Facebook page, the link's down in the show notes. Also, if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.